Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Podcast by Army podcast, where we talk about BTS, Army, fandom, and research. We are your co-hosts, Dr. Kate Ringland and...
Jhertau Her, a university researcher. And today we have a guest, Ren.
Hello. Hi, I'm Ren.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about yourself, Ren?
I'm Ren. I am a BTS Army. I became Army in summer of 2020 when I stumbled upon the Stay Gold music video, and Dynamite was my very first comeback. And now I'm just lurking on Twitter Army and helping with different projects. Enjoying life.
Yay! I didn't know you were Dynamite Army. That's so cute.
It was my very first comeback. I wasn't as much on Twitter, but I was engaged in Twitter and everything and helping with goals and stuff. So that was fun. But I do remember, one of my big Army memories is seeing Dynamite hit 100 million the next day when we all thought it was just like 96 or something. That was really fun, and seeing all the trending.
No, that was wild to see. Because I remember people were live tracking the deleted views too. And they're like, we could have gotten over 100 million if they didn't delete these.
And we still got the next.
For being an Army, you talked about some of the projects you're involved in. So what exactly are those projects?
Oh, I've been helping with some archive projects with some photo ones, and then one of the archives that hosts a lot of like links and downloads. I am also the admin for 0613 newspaper, which posts daily updates once a day. It's almost been a year for the project. I'm very excited about it. Still pretty small, but I love how it's growing slowly but surely. But it was born out of just this kind of desire to see an account that gave updates for one day, but didn't necessarily retweet everything because I already follow all the accounts that have all that content, but I just want to make sure I still got everything that day and then still be able to access that outside of Twitter. So if you're like super busy as a student or someone working full time, you could still access it, but not be on Twitter. So I do have a Google document that's linked to it, the Twitter. So you can still access all the links without being on Twitter and online, and you don't have to be involved with Twitter for that. Yeah.
Oh, super cool. There's always the joke of if you miss Twitter for a day, you miss like 100 years of content.
Yeah. And just also like seeing a lot of fan bases too that post maybe too much information about certain members. So I keep it no airport, no fan side content, but even like some media I won't post about until big hit or the members announce it themselves. So that's, I try to be a bit not stricter, but just more, you cut that out anyway.
Yeah.
You're like more conscious of it.
Yeah, more conscious of what I'm putting out. So yeah.
Is there anything that's like I don't know, it feels like it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah, for archiving, yeah, it is. I probably spend 30 minutes to an hour each day compiling everything, mostly because there's content that I find from like the main accounts like BTS Big Hit and stuff, but there's some content that they don't necessarily update on, especially for individual projects. So if they're on a variety show or something, they might not retweet it in time for me to see it. And so I sometimes have to look. So I usually end up on the For You like timeline, just scrolling for a little bit, and then I go down a rabbit hole, and I'm like, oh shoot, I have to update this. Yeah, but I think it's worth it, and sometimes it's only like 30 minutes a day. It's not too bad for me. I have time. I think armies that might have extra time on their hand, I would definitely. It's nice to have that help in the community, but I'm also doing this for the armies that don't have time to just have one place for them to access.
It's definitely a big feat because I remember like when I saw that you put the streaming achievements on there, if you get hit like 100 million streams or like that, and I was thinking, oh my god, it's really difficult to track. Some days multiple songs hit an achievement.
Yeah, I'll check our charting accounts, but then I'll double check on the streaming services because some of the not usually Army charting accounts, but the non-Army accounts will post earlier than we've actually hit the milestone because of that way they can get the first hit. So I always have to double check that. But yeah, I try to keep it more strict as well because I don't want every million. We don't need like updates for every million, but maybe every 100 million. I try to do 10 and 100 million, and then every 100 million after that. So, and then or a billion for profiles and albums and stuff. But just the big milestones.
Yeah, that's actually yeah, that's really good to hear about because I was like worried. I was like, oh, or is she gonna do every single milestone?
BTS has so many songs, and now with chapter 2, all the individual members have their own songs. So it's just there's a lot. I cannot update every million, and we don't need to do that too. I think sometimes there's too much information, and again, especially since this account was geared towards Army that might not have as much time. They don't need to know every milestone we hit. Maybe just the 100 millions, or we hit number 1 on iTunes, or some Billboard achievements. But yeah, or similar veins. Like I don't post about every single voting because we know that not all voting and all award shows are not necessarily, they don't benefit BTS, but they might not receive a physical trophy.
Yeah. That's still
You're doing
so
great.
much though. Yeah.
But something that we share, Ren, actually, is having a history in fandom before Army.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that and maybe what affirmational and transformative fandom is?
Yeah. I would say my first big fandom was Wings Club, actually, when I was like 12 and 13. Yeah, so that was my first big one. I was making original, or we would say OCs, but I guess the term would be fan characters or original characters on DeviantArt, transitioned to Tumblr, and then I moved from Wings Club to Star Wars. I was in a subset of that as well with Star Wars, and that moved from Tumblr to Twitter, and then after the disappointment of The Rise of Skywalker, moved to BTS shortly after that. So that's why I'm here on. But I would say with Wings Club, even when I was 12 and 13, I was trying to help out with, there was like a fandom wikia. Before they were called fandom, it was just wikia. And so I remember trying to help archive things and organize all the different episodes, writing transcripts. So even now as an Army, it's fun to still do that by organizing like maybe their discography or links and making it accessible to everyone, all the BTS content anyways. So yeah. And then you said, oh yeah, the affirmative and transformative fandom. So I think FanLore has a definition for those. Affirmational fandom is creator-centric, in which the source material is restated, the author's purpose divined to the community satisfaction, and rules established on how the characters are and how the universe works and cosplay, etc. This does tend to be in male-dominated fandoms. For instance, Star Wars, I would see this a lot, where you would want to know everything about that content, all the different characters, all the stats, even the lightsaber dueling tactics and stuff. And there's this priority placed on that, and usually very loosely it's usually where you're considered a fan if you know all of that. And I saw that a lot because I was in a subset of the Star Wars fandom that was more female, because we were surrounding more of a romantic ship in the Star Wars fandom, and I'll touch on that. But I remember a lot of co-fans, they would go to like a Comic-Con and they dress up as a Star Wars character, or they go to trivia night and they'd be asked like, oh, do you know this and this? And it's usually by a guy that would try to test them and see if they're a fan. So I mean, that I wouldn't say that's a good thing at all, because that's very gatekeeping. But on the other hand, it's nice to have that affirmational fandom, so that way fans know the original content of the source and they're well knowledged in that, which they can use that knowledge to make transformative fandom. Transformative fandom would be where it's more fanworks oriented, where they change the source, and as the definition says on the website, all about laying hands upon the source and twisting it to the fans' own purposes, whether that is to fix a disappointing issue in the source material, or to illustrate a point, or just to have a good time. And this does tend to be in female-dominated communities, where they're not happy. I wouldn't say not happy, but they just want to change a little thing. Or in my case, in my previous fandom, we weren't happy about how the storyline was going. And so there's been a lot of fan works, fan art, fan fiction to change that outcome. And I would say there's pros and cons to it, where cons maybe goes way too transformational, and then they try to push that as canon or as the actual content. But on the pro side, it can help spread that fandom to other people that might not be usually with that fandom. And yeah, it's good community bonding too as well.
That's so cool.
Well,
I'm glad you explained it. You explained it really well.
thank you. And I
Yeah.
would say Army's a good like balance of the two. With being female dominated, there is a lot more transformative fandom. So a lot of fan works and fan art. And I know some people, and just even like fan edits, it doesn't have to be so transformative that we mentioned like ships and stuff. It doesn't have to necessarily be that, but just like fan edits that can pull people into the fandom. And then it's nice to have the affirmational fandom part of Army too, so that way, obviously, just to love and respect and support BTS, you gotta know their history, you gotta know what they went through, and to teach newer armies about that. There are real people versus older fandoms like Star Wars and stuff. They're still real people, so you still gotta respect them and honor or respect their history and all the content they put out.
Yeah. With all of that information, I want to throw it to Kate really quick because Kate, BTS and Army is her first real fandom. So Kate, how do you see affirmational transformative fandom and Army?
It's interesting because I obviously think that I agree that I think we do a really nice job of balancing the two. And I think it's fun because I feel like BTS themselves support the fandom in doing both types of work. So it's fun to see both being supported by the artists. I actually really resonated with the gatekeeping stuff from like Star Wars being an affirmational fandom because I feel like the spaces I've occupied in the past have all been, I didn't know words for it back then, but they've all been these male dominated affirmational spaces where I was gate kept out of things because I didn't want to sit there and nerd out about stats or whatever thing I was supposed to memorize to be able to like partake in the conversation. And I've always preferred like the more creative, playful, like how can we twist this and make this a new story kind of stuff. So anyway, so I think that's probably why landing in the Army fandom like really resonated for me because it's just like it's a really nice balance of yes, there's all this like real world stuff that we clearly respect and want to preserve, but then also we all have a really fun time playing around with like different ways of being in the space. And I would say it's not even about, I know you were reading the definition, it's not even about necessarily we're not happy with the current. It's just we want to play around and it's this just creative. If we did it this way, what might happen and what might that look like? And I don't know, it's super fun.
Yeah, what if all of BTS were mermaids?
What happens if? Yes.
What if? What if they were in Winx Club? For real. For real.
I feel like it's one fan art though, at least one.
At least. There has to be.
Has to be. That's the fun of fandom. Could be anything.
It's so interesting. It's fun how you talked about affirmational fandom because usually when I talk about male dominated versus female fandoms, I use the term curative fandom because curative is about the collecting aspect of it. But I think it's good that you use affirmational in this instance
Yeah.
because armies also collect, but I feel like we're so female dominated in collecting. It's different.
It
Yeah.
is different. Yeah.
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 Women just collect better. But yeah, with all your knowledge of fandom, how do you feel about Twitter right now? And how it's
Ooh.
going?
Nice
I feel like-
transition.
oh, yeah, good job.
I'm the queen of transition and stuff.
We love her. We love her. Honestly, I feel like we're gonna lose a bunch of history real soon with this how this app is going, yo. Yeah, no, with Twitter just on its deathbed, I just feel like we're gonna lose a lot of BTS content, and so that makes me really sad. Besides YouTube, BTS have been on Twitter since pre-debut era, so there's a lot of history. Just either just their tweets, even their tweets to armies, a long time ago, or some of their photos. They've got hit tweets that are on the top 20 of most liked tweets of all time. So there's a lot of history, and I would not even just like BTS's like account and related content, but even just army content too, and like army history at the same time, like BTS history. So like what, their responses and experiences during certain milestones BTS reached, or when they went through hard times, how ARMY was feeling. So even then, I wish we could capture that too. ARMY experiences and ARMY tweets to just give more context and history to BTS and ARMY history.
Very solid.
It
Very
was,
solid. Yeah, I feel like that same pressure though about preserving Twitter. I know Kate has hot opinions on Weverse and other websites. You
yeah,
want to share those, Kate?
You want me to cut in with my thoughts on Weavers? No, but yeah, I think Weavers could be doing better. I think there's so many things Weavers could be that it is just not right now. And so it's because I know a lot of people were like, especially when Twitter started, when the first wave of Twitter's collapse started happening, a lot of people were like, I guess we're going to Weverse now, question mark. And that's not the space that's not a space we can really go and occupy in the same way that we've occupied Twitter. Yeah. I have also been super depressed about this whole Twitter falling apart thing. It's bad news.
yeah. I think Twitter's just nice too for just search purposes with the whole recome back for Two for School and OR Relate too. It's pretty easy to like look up old tweets. Like you can just type in from and then until the date. And so you can find both on the BTS account, but also just ARMY in general. If you just look up Bangtan or BTS and those dates, you'll find old tweets. And we've made hit tweets from 10-year-old tweets just because it captured that moment. But like Weavers, you can't do that. YouTube, it's not really community based as Twitter. So yeah, I dread the time when I can't open Twitter. I won't be able to open Twitter and you just lose all that history. So it's nice to have some archival projects, especially for the BTS content. Hopefully, I'm sure Big Hit is doing their part too to preserve a lot of that history, but both BTS content, but it'd be nice to also archive some of the ARMY content as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think what's particularly difficult about archiving ARMY content is just like how much there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then also across different languages, across different websites. I've tried searching on Tumblr. It is a nightmare. It is a nightmare.
Yeah.
But we're doing our best. What do you think we should do about it? Like how should we combat this?
Oh, I know we could make use of the archive or the Wayback Machine. But those capture that in that, especially like the bigger accounts, like the translator accounts.
Yeah, putting translation accounts into the Wayback Machine. Yeah.
Yep. And especially or inactive accounts too that did a lot of translation or promotion for BTS. Just because they're like they won't. I don't know if they'll go back to their Twitter account in time, and so it'd be nice to again archive and capture those so we can still like reference them in history.
But yeah, I really agree with that. How do you feel about that, Kate? Who should we document?
No, I totally agree. I wish there's like a way to just capture all of ARMY Twitter and just put it into a time machine because there's just so much going on there that like it's hard even now with accounts. There was still remember there was like, was that 2021 or there was a time when a bunch of accounts got suspended all at once for DMCA strikes or something. And it was like I was like trying to do my own research and I was like having panic because a lot of things were getting quote retweeted and stuff and the links would be dead, right? They'd be going to suspended accounts and stuff. And I'm just like, what do we do if these big accounts are getting suspended? So yeah, I agree. I wish that there was a way to bottle up a lot of this stuff. And I wish personally I had thought some of this through earlier when things like the API where you could actually scrape tweets and stuff still worked. It doesn't work anymore, so you can't do that. But yeah.
We're trying our best. I've gotten a lot of my mutuals on board with using the Wayback Machine. That's one win. One win. But for me, I recorded a lot in the Wayback Machine. And I've also recorded a lot of receipt stuff too. So
Yeah, my screenshot folder is a little scary. I would also super encourage people who have, I don't know, written their own threads or have their own content to do what they can to transfer those to other places like blogs and stuff
Mhm.
as a way of preserving some of this history. The nice thing about writing, I myself have written a lot of threads on Twitter, and the nice thing is you can just copy paste that straight to a blog, and it's basically you've already built the blog post because it's already written. You just need to copy paste. But no.
yeah, like
Yeah.
use WordPress, use
Yeah,
Tumblr, use LiveJournal, use
yeah,
Medium
yeah,
if you do professional work. You
yeah.
can also unroll threads. So there's this thing called the Thread Reader
Mm,
app. So you can just at Thread Reader app and then type the word unroll, and then it'll put it into a separate website where it puts it into a document for you. And it's easy to download a PDF of that, and then you can save it through there. So there's
mhm.
avenues and strategies, but still
Maybe
scary.
that sounds like a project getting everybody to save their own tweet
Yeah.
threads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd
I
be
just
fun.
gave
We could do a bingo card. Oh my god. My default for everything when it involves army is a bingo card. Make a bingo card. Because people love it. People love bingo cards.
it's
Okay.
true. They do. They do.
But also it engages them. It's not just okay, a goal sheet here. No, you actually gotta do some work too, man. You gotta help us
Yeah.
out here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really want to make buying bingo cards. So it's, oh, here's iTunes. And then I put Kobas in every direction. So people have to learn how to buy on Kobas eventually. Everyone's like, it's so hard, it's so difficult. I'm like, we're learning today. We're learning. I don't care who you are, we're doing it, you know? Yeah, with talking about archiving and that, you also wanted to talk about when we talked about before receipt culture and proof and
Yeah.
sources. Do you want to talk more about that?
It's really nice that Army has a receipt culture and keeping proof of a lot of things, both about BTS, but also in the fandom and outside the fandom. I feel like a lot of those get pulled out, especially with how long, BTS have reached 10 plus years now. And so it's can be pretty easy for misinformation to spread around or people either unknowingly or maliciously trying to rewrite history on Twitter and other social media or fit BTS to their narrative. So being able, or not just BTS, but also just how Army reacted to something or how other fandoms reacted to BTS. And so having those receipts is helpful to make sure history is not rewritten, and also educating newer armies of the history of BTS and what the context of certain situations. It's helpful to let baby armies know the full context of a situation because at the surface level it could look pretty bad, but with receipts and more context and it's a bigger picture.
Are there examples of important events that you think should be documented?
I've seen receipts used a lot when a solo comes along and tries to do their BS solo stuff. And I've seen people be like, no, that's not actually how it happened because solos tend to take things very out of context, right? They'll pull something out of context and then people have receipts that show the full context of a thing. I've seen that happen a lot. So it's nice to have that and because I've seen a lot of baby army kind of fall victim to that out of context quote or whatever. I've seen that happen. And then people be like, no, actually, here's all the really important context that they've selectively decided not to show you. So I've seen that happen. It's nice. So it's nice for combating that kind of misinformation.
So I would say receipts are really helpful with BTS history, especially in the context of them being underdogs. Especially we find with newer fans and armies, especially armies that turn GP, sometimes they don't realize how much of BTS are underdogs, especially in the context of the K-pop industry and the Western industry. For instance, in the K-pop industry, they're not one of the big three labels. K was close to bankruptcy and how they had to climb through that and persevere. But also just breaking into America, they're still not signed under a American label. And so they have an American distributor, but they don't have a label that is going to put money towards their promotion and stuff. And they're not bringing money to those labels, American labels, so they are often shunned by the American industry. So we usually will keep receipts of how they're treated by radio, by award shows, to give context. We're not trying to pity BTS and say, oh, they're always getting the short end of the stick, but it's to at least give more context and more history to the environment they're in and what they have to face in the both Korean and Western industries.
Yeah, to add on to that, like an example I was ruminating over was BTS's entrance into the American music market. Because a lot of armies weren't around when that happened. But a lot of people think, oh, it was 2017 was when they entered. No. Okay. BTS were on Billboard during the Most Beautiful Moment in Life era. That's the whole thing. BTS, very much like them entering into the American music market, was like a slow burn type of thing. It did not happen immediately. And I think contextualizing that and remembering that is really important, especially now. We just heard recent news too about how a lot of the Korean K-pop companies are focusing on the American music market now. And they don't realize that, oh, BTS's success was built. There was a lot of things going into them, eventually going to the Billboard Music Awards for the Top Social Artist Award, and then them going to the American Music Awards and then perform DNA there. That was like all that happening was accumulative. That was not just a sudden thing. And it's important to remember that, important to contextualize it, because when we don't, then people come up with weird narratives. All of the things we talked about, people come up with weird narratives. I don't know. Like sometimes you talk about the underdog story, Ren, and sometimes when people talk about that, they like contextualize it weirdly, or they like it's like the whole like when BTS recorded in For Dark and Wild, they recorded in a garage in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people try to act like they had no support or something from Big
Yeah.
Hit when they did.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely the extreme of, oh, they had a ton of money and they had all this support from the other entertainment companies in Korea, and that's wrong. But on the other side, it's, oh, they were mismanaged by the label and they had to do it in a garage. Now that's also wrong. So it's good to have those receipts and those archival stuff, so that way, so you know, this is the context, this is what actually happened, and yeah.
Yeah.
Like, how do you feel about that too, Kate?
No, I totally agree. It's one of those things that when I was very first on Army Twitter, it was one of the very first things I was like, holy crap, this is so cool. Because I was like watching I don't know, there was some drama because there's always drama. And people started dropping screenshots underneath. And that was the first, I'd never seen anything like that in any other spaces I'd been in. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever that people actually keep this, know how to find it again. They don't just like actually know where they keep their receipts, and they actually then are able to pull them out and put them up whenever they need them. And I'm like, this is wild that this is a thing that people actually practice, and it's the coolest thing ever. Yeah. I think it's really nice, especially and I've actually used it to my benefit. Sometimes I'll be like, especially when I was writing one of my research papers, I was like, okay, there's this quote I am thinking of that somebody said at some point, and I tweeted out, I was like, does anybody know what this is that I'm thinking of? And I had a bunch of people reply and like actually give me the answer I needed. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever that we have this like collective history that people just have at their fingertips that I can then just find. It's very cool.
We literally have photogenic memory.
Yep.
There's a great community on Twitter too that are adjacent to the content index. Woo, great archive. Woo, the content index. It's a Google Doc that has links and it archived themselves all the video content from pre-debut to now, like yesterday. But they also have a community on Twitter too that you can upload like a photo or a clip and ask where the original source is, which I think is great, especially for newer armies that are probably overwhelmed by the 10 plus years of BTS content. So I think too it's great that Army as a community overall is all for finding the original sources, but I'd love to see even more just to include original sources.
I agree, definitely.
I agree too.
Yeah, it's important to quote. I have this one moot who clocks people every single time. You'll just see her in reply. Like you'll go to like recent tweets, right? You'll see her in replies, and she's, "Oh, where's this from?" And then
Yeah.
and
I
she asks it so
uh,
nonchalantly,
yeah.
but she's gonna clock you.
Yeah. Like, you don't know it. I'll find it. I'll find it. And she's done threads where she like asks for your favorite photo of OT7 to remember and just include your sources. I'm like, yes, go do that. Yes. Good.
Yes, shout out to her for real. I don't know, it's so important to link sources. It actually makes me like really bummed when people don't. Or like well, I do the play dumb thing. So I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, where's this from?
Yeah.
It's like content you're like, we're not supposed to be sharing this. So I play dumb like, hey, where'd you find this? And they give me a weird source. I'm like, ah, cool, thanks, and then blocked.
No, actually, it's so bad. You've seen me do it, and then you like DM'd me afterwards and be like, I see what you
Yeah, no, because I was asking, I'm like, do I need to include this in the update? Who shared it? Was it Big Hit? I don't remember Big Hit sharing this. I don't have time to look up. Can you tell me? And yeah, Jhertau asked for me, and I'm so bad, but it was a weird source.
Yeah, I don't like it. Like when people do oh my god. We're gonna preface this right now. Do we all consider K media not a source for things? Because I
I
never
was,
consider it a source.
No.
I like really avoid it,
Yeah.
but I definitely avoid it, especially for the update account. I just I think there's times for it. Like I've heard, especially like arguments for when they achieve something and we want to just see what the general opinion is of it. But even then, we know that can be there's still bias, especially because they might have ties to other entertainment labels. Woo! But and I think there's times too when Big Hit does officially announce something through the media. But even then, I feel like there's been many times where they've been pressured to say something. So it's like half the time, like, do I even want to know what they said? Because they probably were forced or felt pressured to say something.
I literally just tweeted about this yesterday, but beyond the story,
Yeah.
how they were pressured to release the information to announce it early because of
Mhm.
other constraints and people happening. How do you feel about that, team? Kate, you wanna start?
I'm not happy about it. I don't like that there's so much weird pressure from outsiders on our community in particular. And it's so frustrating because we're like, as a community, we're constantly like delegitimized. And then we get this weird pressure from other communities who I don't know are leaking things before we've had a chance to even find out about them. Or I don't know. I get really mad because it's just like this weird double thing where we're not legitimate, but also there's all this weird attacky bull that happens from outsiders. I don't know. I just get really mad.
Thank you for not cursing, so I don't just censor it in
I
post.
I'm I'm trying so hard.
Like, how do you feel about that, Ren?
Yeah. There's been discussion about it, but if BTS have to address something, either when it comes to dating rumors or like album announcements, if Big Hit has to address one of them, they're going to be expected to address everything. And so I'm glad they don't, especially when it comes to more things that are more about BTS's personal life. So there's not that expectation every time. And because we know that there's very loud minorities, the solos that like to trend a lot of things over the most smallest detail, I'm glad Big Hit doesn't address everything.
We'd be getting
Yeah,
constant announcements. We'd
we
be getting
would.
constant.
No BTS aren't dating this person.
Yeah.
No, not this person. I don't know, like with this whole conversation too. I was just thinking about it with how BTS show autonomy over what they talk about too. We
Mhm.
saw this is gonna be a sore spot for a lot of people, but the Namjoon song discourse with him sharing that one song
Mhm.
by Frank Ocean
Mm-hmm.
and like the discourse that spewed from that. But we saw very much he has his own autonomy and control over
Yeah.
how he talks about these things. because he literally talked about it on live too. That was surprising to me that he even acknowledged it. I don't know. How do you guys feel about that? I know that was like a lot too. We'll
I
start
was
with Kate.
surprised. I was surprised that he even bothered to talk about it.
Mhm.
But a part of me, I don't know, I guess I'm glad in a way he did and just shut the conversation down. But also, I'm mad that the discourse got to the point where he was seeing it and felt like he had to address it. That just makes me so mad that people are that dumb.
Yeah. Like, how do you feel about it, Ren?
No, it's the same thing where it's interesting that he does have tabs on the fandom, but yeah, it's sad that he had to address it. And it's so sad that a minority has to be loud about it.
Mhm.
And to like an outsider perspective, it sounds like they're talking for the whole fandom when in reality it's not. And the army's like huge, like even beyond Twitter and even on social media, there's so many offline armies that don't even know about this, and then now they're gonna watch a live and he has to address it. Like you're like, what is he
Right.
talking?
It was this whole conversation too. I know we talked about like, misinformation earlier as well. There's just so much. It was uncontrollable, really, because I remember it even reached my IRL friends, and they were like, "Are you supporting someone who's like all these things?" And I was like, "No, that you are heavily misinterpreting this song and this situation." And I don't know. How do you guys feel about like combating misinformation and disinformation in fandom? Guess we'll toss it back to Kate.
I think there's two separate things, right? There's like dealing with it internally and like dealing with what's going on inside our community and dealing with what I like to call the fringe non-army that tend to hang out around us, like the solos and the whatever else that tend to inject the misinformation. So there's combating that, which is a whole thing, which I feel like for the most part we've been trying our best to handle it, and like the receipt culture and everything is like a big part of that. We have a whole nother episode we did in season 1 about if we had more people actually writing blogs and making vlogs and doing video essays and stuff, that would go a long way too. Shout out to season 1. Anyway, but then there's the like when outsiders start seeing all this and combating that is a whole nother thing because it's yeah, when I start getting messages from people who aren't army, who just know I happen to like BTS, when I'm getting messages from them asking me about BTS and they've got totally the wrong story, that's a whole nother thing where I'm like, I don't even know how to combat this because they're just getting this from mainstream media. And I'm like, I can't fight the entire media industry. I don't know what to do with that. So I don't know. That's a whole nother thing. And then I guess that's what I'm doing as part of my job as a researcher is trying to course correct in my little minute way the way that mainstream media and like the GP see this fandom, but that's a whole nother thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Ren, how do you feel about combating misinformation, disinformation?
Yeah, no, I agree with Kate. Just there's definitely a difference between fighting inner fandom. It is not, and also inner fandom. There's the difference between like baby armies or GP turned army that maybe just got misinformation and just got the wrong narratives, and so they have to be re-educated. But there's also on the fringes, as Kate said, like and solos, antis, and just people from or fans from other fandoms that are purposefully trying to start fan wars that are trying to spread misinformation maliciously, just again to start fan wars. So it's how do you address that so you can still you want to educate the newer fandoms kindly and say, hey, this is the full context, this is the full history, but at the same time addressing those on the fringe that are just doing it for maliciously. Do we block them, report them? Do we try and have a conversation? No, not usually. And then yeah, on the outside, in real life, how do you give so much context in a short amount, like a short text or a short explanation, so they don't have to be involved in army culture, but you still want to tell them the truth and reality behind it with more context. So
Yeah. I feel like when we talked about archiving receipt culture, Very much like that kind of contributes to combating it and
Mhm.
like that. But as our hour is ending, we have to do some things. So I guess we'll start with final thoughts. Any final thoughts, Kate?
Final thoughts. Yeah, I feel like today we talked a lot about the importance of preserving our community's history. And I just feel like I want to double down on that and be like, yes, let's get the word out, preserving our community's history. Because I feel like it's one of those things that we're going to see lots of stuff from Big Hit. We've seen documentaries, we've got like the book, we have all this cool BTS history that's being documented, but we don't have a lot of army history documented in the same way. And I think that it's going to be one of those things, especially as we watch, you know, Twitter slowly deteriorate in front of us, that we're going to want to keep that history preserved in some searchable way that we can like later be like, look, this is all the cool stuff that Army was doing while BTS was doing all this stuff. And I think that I'd like to see more of that happen. And I want to just applaud the people that are currently doing that work. That's my wrap up thought.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's important to highlight a lot of the work that people have done for the past, what now? Is it 10 years? Almost 11?
Yeah, 10 plus. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah. There's some armies who have been here since 2012.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
we're
wild.
old. Oh my God. We can't
Yes.
do this anymore. But yeah, there's just recently people were talking about BTS translation. And they've been here since pre-debut, guys. They've been here a while. And it's like a lot of the same people doing it for the past 10 years too.
OGs, yo.
They are the OGs. And we should recognize people's work and like how they've done things. And also recognize the work of a lot of new armies. Again, Ren's a 2020 army doing so much. We recognize, we memorialize, and we need a fandom wiki that's not on the fandom wikia website. Controversial opinion, I know. I do not like their website design at all. It's so bad. Anyway, toss it to Ren.
Oh,
Final thoughts.
off on the wiki idea. There's been many DMs between me and Jhertau talking about how much money and effort we go into Wikipedia. Can we do it? It would be nice. I think BTS has the perfect fandom, has all the content, has the perfect fandom to make a Wikipedia that could compete with other big Wikipedias. That'd be fun. Anyways, yeah, I would say to just armies listening, support all the archival projects and the fan bases and bookmark them too. Access them, tell the admins when you are, and because that actually I think that helps a lot. I get comments on my newspaper account about how much it helps them, and it gives me a little boost, especially when BTS have been gone for a week and we really missed them, and I only got one update out, but it still helps to see that it's helping other armies. So definitely, if you have time and you want to put some fan love and labor to army, definitely reach out to some fan bases and offer help. That'd be amazing. If all of us pitch in just even 5-15 minutes a day, we could archive a lot and help educate the next generation of armies. So we're all ready for 2025 and on. It'll be fun. And so everyone's educated too by when BTS come back, so I don't have to see any weird takes on the timeline. Anyways, thank you for having me, by the way. I really appreciate it. For reaching out to me.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for coming.
Yes, this was so fun.
Woo! All right, guys, we did it. We've reached the apex. We've reached the end. Thank you, both of you, for being here. Thank you, Ren, for coming to speak on the podcast. Our first guest this season 2.
Yay!
All right, everyone. Please remember to have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. And remember, archive stuff. Go ask to participate in things. And listen to Ren's wise words. Okay, that is all. Everyone, please take care. And bye!
Bye.
Bye.